So earlier this winter, we had quite a few snowstorms here on the coast, which brought down a bunch of the trees around here that trail crews have since come through and cleaned up to remove any hazards that are posed to people walking the trails, like this Western Hemlock here we can see on the ground. Now, not the biggest of trees, and looking at it, we can see it's got some pretty ripply, pretty warpy growth characteristics, which are really common in older Western Hemlocks, and it's left this really cool cross-section to a stump here. Now, again, compared to the size of my hand, not the biggest of trees, but I just did a rough ring count, and guess how old it was when it was cut down? By my count, about 212 years old, which is wild. You know, this scraggly, cool hemlock here was older than the country of Canada itself, and probably wasn't even really big enough to become a dominant tree in the canopy here. Now, what's really cool is when we look at the growth rings of this tree, we can see that these inner rings, these rings when it was younger, are really tightly packed, meaning the growth was really slow here in these first few years because this tree was shaded out underneath the canopy of these western red cedars and Sitka spruces that surrounded it here. But then once a gap in the canopy opened up and this tree was above a certain height to get above the understory, we can see that these rings spread out quite a bit because it was exposed to that much more light. So it was able to grow pretty rapidly in those last few decades. So it's pretty neat to be able to see this complexity within a tree as relatively small as this, yet still strikingly old, which just goes to show the magnitude of depth and complexity in these forest ecosystems that mature over thousands of year timescales that are just so beyond our comprehension. I mean, heck, human societies rarely last 1,000 years, and these trees, these ecosystems, aren't simply something that can grow back in a single human lifetime. It's pretty wild.